Hey everyone. I'm back with I'll call it episode 2 of my little podcast reboot. Um, Trying to keep them a little shorter. Maybe saw my latest one last week, and then I actually starting to write about it too in my newsletter, which it's not my old one on Substack. It's my new one on LinkedIn. It's where most of the people that want to hear my crap are anyways. So just a fun little note. But today I wanted to talk a little bit about AgTech adoption in somewhat of the realms I was talking about last time. So check that episode out if you want to hear more, and maybe all my other past ones when I actually had guests on, which maybe I'll bring some back occasionally. I'm not sure yet. Time will tell. Where I've talked about this a lot, but I kind of wanted to break it down a little bit. Um, and talk through it, like where are we at? Why is it this way? Because it's on a lot of people's minds as there's a big shift going on in, well, everything. And within ag, there's a lot of questions out there. So I'm just going to try to demystify it a little bit, maybe, if I can, at least a skosh, if someone wants to call it that, or a fraction, whatever fun verbs you want to use. So I started talking last week on small farms could be the future for ag tech adoption, as the kind of the big farms we won, a lot of the larger farms are adopting it. And that is good. Of course, that was what was always kind of marketed towards, and no one really marketed towards the small farms. And I talk about that. But is that really where the adoption fully is going to be? Well, I think a lot's going to be determined in what this administration's policies are going to be, because how else? I mean, that's the way it'll work. And there's some things that could make it worse. Maybe some things could make it better. Um, Tough to say, though. In my mind, there's a lot more opportunities in places people just don't want to look, or maybe they're afraid to look. Also, they're not they're big things, but they're small things that need to be solved. And like, there's no giant things that need to be solved in the ag tech equation. For the most part, there's probably some gene editing stuff that will revolutionize everything. I don't know, something big like that. But that's a whole nother can of worms there. And that might be done by one of the majors, and it's not going to be done by kind of smaller groups. So really, the rest is just kind of pick up the crumbs, because, you know, through the 30 years that I've kind of seen all these things come out, it's not, I just don't know where the big thing fits. So it's really about finding little pieces, little crumbs everywhere. And honestly, a lot of those places aren't here in the States. I don't even know if they're in Canada. There's the niche areas, like I said, the small farms that want to go niche, but they're going to need incentive to really get into that. And maybe that is through some sort of governmental help or something. Like, there's always been a lot of talk of putting a cap to how much uh, is paid for direct payments to farmers in the United States. Right now, it's everybody. Maybe there's a cap at so many dollars, so many acres, because the majority of large farms take up the lion's share of the amount. We'll see. And then you have people that are new in there, like, or talked about with RFK Jr. of saying we need smaller farms, more kind of the old way of growing things and gardening and safer, better, healthy food. Maybe that's where that fits in, but there needs to be incentive to drive smaller farms to exist in kind of a new way using tech versus the kind of current method. Um, but I'll say this: where things can get really weird fast is where ag tech adoption is actually taking off and who's really going to benefit it from the most. I don't know if it's here. or North America, maybe parts. Like I said, there are niches where there is improvement. One area I know is with talking with people, there's still a lot of room for improvement with specialty crops, like in California and the West and East Coast and areas like that. There's a lot more can be done there, robotic wise, tracking, stuff like that. That's probably actually where a lot of it's going. There's a lot of money going that way. Traditional commodity crops, like I said, you got to pick up the crumbs. But it's overseas, because you have to look at a big piece of reality, with like Wi-Fi and internet. Okay, so kind of invented here. Your landlines through phone lines, phone companies deal with it, blah blah blah. Finally, cell towers come up. Everyone's got Wi-Fi. Yeah, still struggles in certain parts of the country, but where I live, it's everywhere, high speed internet. Well, in a lot of other countries, especially little second, third world countries, they just leapfrogged having to deal with all that infrastructure and just went into cell phones and cell towers. So that's where a lot of that lies. And that's not necessarily the point. It's that they leapfrogged over an entire sector. And you can start seeing that in, I'd say, Brazil. There's other areas of the world. I'm not going to try to even think and name them all. They exist, where they're just kind of, their adoption went from just zero to like here, because land opened up, and here's just modern farming methods. There's not this old world thinking, the family farm's been there forever, this tradition, the kind of having to retrain or re-educate. No, it's giant farms coming in, employees do X, do Y, follow this, follow that. That's where that's where it's happening. There's really just no denying it. Now, there's still challenges with connectivity there. That's why you have John Deere doing the Starlink stuff. You have others doing similar things. It's now about getting just more connectivity in the rural areas, in these kind of third, second world, or maybe 2.5, 2.5 worlds, countries, to kind of fill that gap. And I think a lot of the major production is going to switch there, especially, if trade's getting dinged here. Other countries are starting to look elsewhere already, because they don't trust it. What's that going to spell for here? I don't know. I'm not going to get into the depth of the politics there, but there's a lot of wild things coming, and this is going to shift just a lot of ways and where tech is adopted. And to my point last week, small farms might have to just adapt it more to survive to a point. I think they're going to have to get niche and all that. The large farms, they might have to start adapting it a little more than they think they are, which a lot of them aren't going to the extent they could. Okay, sure. GPS guidance, auto steer, we connected, put into a software. Cool. Great. Then what? Many aren't doing stuff with it, the data. And yeah, it's hard and it's complicated. Maybe this is where the other side of AgTech adoption can help with, maybe it's a human problem, why many farmers haven't adopted the data side of it. Because, you're an agronomist, you got to pay them, or you got to learn a lot about it, play with a tricky software that's got 1,000 frickin' buttons. And it's just mind numbing. I've developed software. I get it. It's trying to train farmers and people that are not used to technology. I've done it all my life. It's terrible. I get why people don't like it either. When I've gotten new software that I've never used, you're like, there's this training manual or some videos. Like, I don't want to read this crap. Like, I get it. Maybe this is where the AI agent things come in and kind of handle some of the basic steps. It doesn't necessarily do the work. It just says, I want to do this in a software, and it just does it on the software. Like, I want to clean this yield data to this with this nth degree, whatever. And it just makes it easier instead of, creating like a variable rate map can take a good one. I mean, it could take hours, heck, days, depending on how many data sets and how fine tuned you want it. Some people go really crazy on them. Some you can go simple, depends on what you're trying to do. And that's an area that is maybe can help in the adoption side, because that's a big reason why adoption is poor. Yeah, maybe the push the button, drive straight, do that. That's great, but if people just don't want to touch software, they don't want to do anything more in the app besides check the weather, check the markets, maybe look at their field, an updated image or something. That process has become a commodity within it. It's why a lot of softwares didn't make it, because they tried to charge money for it, and then big groups came in like, yeah, we're just going to give this to you because you're buying a seed or a chemical or what else for you, and the values drop down. That's hurt adoption as well, because it's hurt people from coming in and making a business case, actually making money off of it. There's actually not a lot of money in building software in ag unless it's tied to something else. This is another thing that we have to address that maybe wasn't thought of. It was like, oh, farmers will use this, it'll help them be more efficient. A lot of them just don't care. They're good, they're fine. But are they going to be forced to maybe get a little more efficient here? I mean, I would probably be thinking about it. Probably should have been always thinking about it. Of course, it's big and scary. Like I said, you got to try this, learn this new thing. And maybe this is where some of the other tech coming in can kind of help on that. I don't know. The whole AgTech adoption thing is a smorgasbord of crazy different crap. There is no one way to solve it, really. I've seen so many different attempts at trying this, different marketing. Try this new tool. Hey, here's a new data set. Sell it this way. Price it this way. Oh, let's go after this niche. Let's go after that niche. There's just no simple way to solve it beyond maybe the government pays you to do it, but that's kind of changing. It seems that that's not wanted, unless it becomes that it is through different means. I don't know. But there's just so many different ways to look at it. My point in maybe all of this is just to kind of talk through the challenges, the things that can work but don't work in certain areas. And you got to think about these things. We're so stuck in I build this and it does this and we'll sell it in X. And there's so many products like that. It's mind numbing. And I talk to different ones, every so often, and people will ask, what do you think of this product? I'm like, hey, for this thing, that sounds great. But then there's like 10 things that can maybe get in the way. But then have you looked here? And a lot of people haven't got to that other point of view. And that's where that's where people like me help. There's others like me out there too that can do these types of things. I'm not some lone ranger sitting out here with my sword of truth on how to solve ag tech. If I could solve it, I would have by now. And I'm not some perfect person here, but I mainly just want to get people to think of all the other scenarios, all the other little areas. Maybe you do have to go niche. Maybe if you are building something new, it's just for those specialty small farms. Maybe it is not in this country. Like it is only Brazil only, or it is only in Africa, where, by the way, yeah, I think with a lot of the stuff happening that there's a big market there. It's still maturing. There's a lot of political stuff there too. That's going to be an area. I just hope that people realize that the adoption side of it, there isn't one real answer beyond people in ag are just kind of scared of change. It's the oldest industry in the world. It's the largest. These things just don't happen overnight. I mean, even auto steer is not everywhere. Not everybody uses it. There's no need to for some. They decided, I'm fine. I'm a couple hundred acres. I'll just drive like I did with my ways, or I think we also forget that there's something kind of fun for farmers to not use technology. Like, do we actually think about that? Do you actually think about that? It's like, oh yeah, you see the new equipment out there, and it's $500,000 planter, $500,000 tractor, $1 million combine. And we talk about all these new great things. And in reality, a lot of farmers, most farmers I know don't want that stuff. They don't want the newest and latest, greatest stuff. They like the good old equipment that they even grew up with because it works for them, worked for their dad, worked for their mom, whatever. They kind of like it. It's like a classic car, but you can use it every day for your job. You have to remember that's a real reality of why adoption is low. And I think a lot of outsiders just haven't been able to grasp that because they haven't been able to feel it, because it's hard to, unless you're like in it, it's hard to feel that. Like if I got back into farming, pray that I do, I don't want the newest equipment. I don't want any of that. I never want that. I want stuff that's like 20, 30 years old and put maybe some newer tech stuff on it to do some of the basic things, but I don't need the latest and greatest things. And sometimes we forget all this extra tech that, either the OEMs or the input companies or XYZ group, whatever. It really just, there's a breaking point. There's a balance where it just starts pissing people off. It's like, you can do all these great things, all of this. People are like, yeah, I don't really care. I just don't give a shit. Like, that's what it is. Like, yeah, that sounds cool. I don't really care. I don't give a shit about your map. I don't give a shit about your new robot. I don't give a shit about your new chemical, your new biological, your new tractor, your new planner. I don't give a shit. That's not why they're in it. Like, we forget, or we think that farmers are just this, there's consumers consuming all this other crap, the other crap that we all get. They just want to farm and be left alone. They don't want all these crazy things. It's inherently just, it's a lifeblood, lifelong thing that they just want to do. Now, yeah, there are the top people that want to get into all the other crazy business aspects of it and tech, and those exist and those are great and fine. It's just, we've concentrated so much on those people, the ones that have the conversation with you, that do care. Maybe the marketing side and building all the new tools in ag tech, it's not about efficiency at all. It has nothing to do with that. Maybe it has nothing to do with the latest and greatest thing, this newest AI thing, or this or that. For some, it will. But what's the thing that gets at the heartstrings that they feel just like, yeah, I like that. That's different for everybody. So there's no kind of unified way to do it, but that's why adoption is tough. It's because that other side exists that just doesn't give a shit about the newest, latest, and greatest. They don't want to sit in front of a computer all day long. Heck, driving from town today back here, I'm like, damn it, I am tired of using a computer some days, and I just don't. I'm like, I just can't do it. Maybe I got some emails to write. Sure, some people just can't deal with this crap every day. I think everyone's getting kind of tired of technology. I think farmers are getting tired of it. People in ag are kind of even getting tired of it. I don't have a great answer beyond that can solve any of these issues. You just got to keep fighting, keep pushing forward, trying to get people to use it. Maybe just you have a small faction of customers and you get a small little group. Not everything in ag tech has to be worth $100 million or be bought out for $1 billion or whatever. That's the mode we got in, and now we're realizing, like, holy crap, that doesn't really work, like, for 99% of the use cases. Some people are still chasing that. That's fine. You need those things too. Some things take a lot of money, some things don't. I'm starting to even think maybe the way to get that other side of ag, and it's not just farmers, it's some of the advisors that they work with. They don't want to use tech. They just, good old spreadsheet, good old charts, good old programs to figure out from banking to crop insurance to all these other things. Some people just want to use what's worked. And I think for the most part, ag can get away with it. Like, it can. There's not many things that just kind of, like I said earlier, come out and they just change everything. A lot of those things have been developed. Like I said, tech kind of won. The next things are going to be more specific to different things. They're going to be a game changer for this fruit or this vegetable or this variety of crop, maybe even, down to that level. You look at the biological side. Many won't you work as a blanket application. Maybe some, sure, I can get how some would. Some are going to be very specific to different soil types. So we have to think of it that way too, and they have to market it that way and figure that out. It's really freaking hard to do. They have a big hill to climb, but that's what they have to figure out to make it. And more so, like with the people that don't want to adopt, it's like, how do you get them? How do you get the laggards of sorts? Because they're just not latching on to all the stuff that's out there. And I see it all the time. We all see it. There's so many people that are just like dumbfounded, like, why is this a thing? Like everyone adopted a laptop computer when they came out. Everyone adopted a smartphone when they came out. Why isn't everyone adopting these softwares? It's like, well, kind of lay out like talked about what I just talked about to some. I think I've always had a feeling of what the answer is, but I don't really know how to do this beyond a lot of people would have to give up a lot to do it. And a lot of that comes down to the farmers need ownership in it. They need to feel like they're part of it. That's the co-op mentality in ag. It's like, yeah, well, at least I'm getting a dividend back from this crap that I'm doing. At least when I buy seed, chemical, and fertilizer, sell my grain to the XYZ co-op, I get a check at the end of the year for my dividends. Like that, they need that. They need that in the tech side of the world. They don't have it. They don't get a rebate from it like they do with seed or chemical if they buy so much. They don't get certain incentives if you buy so many different, combines from. They don't get that with tech. That's what they need. They need things like that. Is it like prizes or trips to other magical places? No, those things don't hurt, but that's another sword in the fire. They need something that they feel they're a part of, but it's also unique to them. I think there's a way to do this in kind of the software game so that they actually become part of it. I think this is actually where AI can fit a lot better. I'll throw out a scenario out there. If I was a major software player in the ag tech space, I won't name who, I'll just say someone that they can do a bunch of crap. You can do like 90% of what people want. And the software is just sitting there. It is what it's always been. If you're certain users, 10% are power users, the rest kind of just play with it. And that's really for the top 20, maybe 30% anyways. How do you get the rest? Well, it's got to be easier. Well, it's not easy. Like, that's why people aren't going in there. Those groups, or maybe they have to use some outside tool, needs to create a tool to train itself within that software so that a farmer or an ag advisor that's not used to it can just say, I want to do these things, type them out like you would on ChatGPT or something like crazy like that. And maybe it's a slew of things, a bunch of bullet points, just what they want in their head. And it builds it. But it builds it based on the software that's already created, all the different forms and functions, and it just organizes it in the way that the farmer wants. And then if he doesn't like the first version, he can change it. Maybe each one of those little things costs X amount of money. But you can play with it for like a little bit to see how it all works, and then you can change it before he actually gets charged. Something like that. I think that's the way you get more adoption. I think you're going to have to do something like that in other parts of the world. That's where the niche comes in. You don't have to build a software for like the specific niche. You need to build it so it can be niche for the person. Maybe that's a better way to put it. So some of these large groups that have these, maybe it's tied to a sensor. I mean, John Deere's tied to 1,000 different sensors of their own. If they were smart, and maybe they're thinking of this, maybe all the other majors are thinking of this too, is creating those prompts in there and saying, well, I want to turn this into exactly my experience, what I want. And I want my data to go to my server. I started a new AWS server and I put it there. And I have the keys. Here's the API key. I do that with my software. I sign up for this server thing. And it's like, here's your API key. You have a secret key. They're easy to do. And I know there's probably a level, some people are going to need some help on this. Why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we giving, that's maybe the thing you give back in AgTech to the farmers. It's just giving them some control, something back. We're not doing that. All we're giving them back is some piece of data that they might not use or they maybe can't use. And they just don't want that. They want to feel part of it. Like if you're a major farm management software and you just made an announcement saying this is how easy it would be. All of your data is stored under your own server that you started, AWS, XYZ, Google, Microsoft, whatever. It doesn't matter. Go in there, set up an account. Here's a button. Here's exactly where you do it. Here's how to do it. Set your own thing. Put your own credit card to there. You go into our account and you sign up. You sign your server up, and everything's yours. Everything's there. We cannot touch it. We care about you and where your data is and how you want to manage it. Why the hell hasn't anyone done that? I don't like. They complain about it. They don't want to go further. Why don't you do that? I think that is like the simplest thing these groups could do. Now, some of them will never do it. Of course they won't, because they use something from it. Maybe it's internal marketing, internal training data. Maybe it's, they have their software, this data. No, they don't sell it off to somebody. They use it internally with their, maybe types of chemistries and genetics and figure out better ways. That can help you, but you don't see it. The farmer doesn't see that. Why can't you let them see it? Don't you want more adoption using these things? Don't you want to make all your stuff better? Now, I think the problem is that there's a fear of that'll kind of stalemate certain things, and maybe that's true. Maybe there's things I don't know, but that's what's needed. Things like that. Oh, I can take XYZ sensor, tighten it here, and I can, tie it to this software through these prompts. Like, there's tons of ways to do that. It just needs to be. Those are the types of things that need to be done. Type it in. I want this. I get this. Oh, all my data stored under my thing, and they have this key. It's kind of like how cryptocurrency works. Everyone's got their own wallet, and they got their own secret keys, and they got different types of crypto coming through. That's one example. Why aren't we doing that with ag data? I don't really. I get why not. Probably more money is needed to do that. Of course, I don't. The ones that have a lot of money, why don't you start with this? No one cares about the tools and the stuff. They want to know that their data is safe with the user. There was a great chance to do it with all this money that came in, and no one did it because out of, I don't know, stubbornness, idiocracy, control, maybe some other reason. They just didn't think about it. That's okay. It was kind of a crazy time. We need to think about that now. People don't want to put their very intricate data in something that they can't control. Even though we do it all the time. People are switching away from that. People are getting tired of it. People like me that have been on social media forever, it's like I'm screwed anyways. It doesn't matter. But I am a little more careful on things. This next generation, after I'm a millennial and there's Zennial and whatever ennial thing, they're just skipping. Like I said earlier, they're just leapfrogging over this. Oh, we have to do it this way. We have to connect through here. We need this account here. They're just disconnecting because they see what's happened to everybody. They've seen what's happened to themselves at a young age, getting enveloped in this stuff. They're going backwards to the basics. Like, I hear that once in a while and I'm like, damn, that's fucking awesome. It is. it also is a little scary because so many have built things up a certain way. But we have to start thinking that way. Like, I want that. People older than me, they want that. They want a little more security in where their stuff is. The younger generations are like, yeah, we're just not doing it. They don't use Facebook or Twitter. I mean, they'll use TikTok to look at things, but they're not putting a lot of their personal crap in there. They're just not doing it. I don't know if they connect through email or not, or, whatever. You have to think that way. But farmers I've always thought that way. They've never really wanted to sign up for all this stuff. And that's why adoption is low. That's why a lot of AgTech groups are losing money, and why they are scared going forward with all the crazy stuff going on. And they should be, because there's a lot of crazy stuff going on. So then what do? Well, think, turn the brain on, get it going. It's not that hard. It also is hard. Think beyond just the thing you're building, that it's cool. Like, you have to really hone in to what you want to do and for whom, and think of something that's a little unique. Like I said, on the software world, if you do something like I just said a little earlier, shit, people are real crazy. There's something else like that in other parts of it. I don't know what it is for everybody. Maybe something with cattle is totally different. It's like, if you just did this, everyone would kind of do it, but no one wants to do it because they're scared that they'll lose kind of control. I don't know. These are some of the problems with AgTech adoption. I'm going to try to write about this in my newsletter tomorrow. Hopefully I get some help I'm going to have to use some of the ChatGPT stuff to kind of hone stuff out so I can kind of bullet point some of this crap. But overall, adoption can be better. It should be better. We have to think better. This non-traditional way of following what other tech industries do, it's just doesn't really work. People are tired. People are tired of spending money on stupid apps and digital this and that. They just kind of want to go out there and do the work. So give them something that allows them to do the work, instead of sitting behind a desk staring at a screen like I am doing with you right now. It might be that simple. So whatever that is, go build it. Go tell the world about it. Hopefully it doesn't invade people's privacy and data and wants and needs. Let's revert a little back to when the world was kind of that way. Yeah, things were connected, but they weren't like eating you alive. That's where AgTech has gone into for a lot of people's minds. Mine even so, and I've been around this forever. It's kind of just grinds at you. It's so intrusive. Make it less intrusive. Like, literally, that's simpler the better. And maybe if you can use some of the new techniques to make it even simpler with AI prompts, whatever, I don't know. New manufacturing methods where it's like, here's a quick prototype. Do it. Try it out. That's where it's at. And the big, huge problems that you think you want to solve, you can't solve them. Can't solve them alone. That's going to take some big time thinking, lots of money, long term. And that's hard. But some people need to do that. And the big corps will do that because that's what they do. But they should get out of the way for the small things, because that's not what they should do. Handle the big stuff, not the small stuff. That's there's my AgTech adoption thoughts for the week. And if you want a much shorter version of this, I guess read my thing. But if you've already gone through this, it's already too late. You're screwed. I was hoping to go a little shorter, but here I am. So that's what's going on for now. If you are listening to this, just for future reference, I am going to Commodity Classic and to World Agritech here in March. If you see me around, I'll wear this hat or a newer version of this hat. Come bother me. Come talk. It's bullshit. It's what I do best. have some fun, figure this out together. We'll talk to you later.